Hi, this video is to show you how to use EBSCO, the database. Sometimes I require that students use so many articles from our database. So if that's a requirement for the assignment you're working on, then this shows you how to get to EBSCO. Now, many colleges and high schools actually have subscriptions to EBSCO. So if you have a subscription through another school that you belong to, don't use that one. Use Seminole so that I can then go in and verify your articles if I need to. So we're going to go up here to academics and then library. And then we're going to go down to where we see online research tools, and you'll see quite a few things, but we're going to choose EBSCO. Now, if you are logging in from off campus like I am right here, you're going to have to put in the credentials. You should find those on your website on the content page under EBSCO info, and you can see that there's the login name and the password. When you copy the password, make sure that you don't have a space before or after, because when you log in, it will see that space as part of the password and might kick you out. So I'm going to sign in. And I'm going to then see all of these different databases and places to go. You want to go to EBSCO host web right here. There are things that you can get in these other places, but like hobbies and crafts and stuff like that, that's not necessarily going to be good. Elementary student and high school student, again, those are not going to be appropriate for college level resources. So again, some of these will be fine, but EBSCO host is going to be where you want. And then you're going to see different kinds of databases that you can look at. You can choose to select all of them, and every time you do a search, it will look at all of the databases. And it will like have each of those things separated. So I'll show you kind of what it looks like. I usually just go in first to Academic Search Premier, this first one. And if I can't find anything there, then I will tend to come and look at some of these other ones. Again, if I'm not doing anything that's related to military and government collection, it doesn't make sense to search that. And I definitely do not want to do anything here in the New World Encyclopedia, because an encyclopedia is not considered a college level resource. So again, some of these, again, just wouldn't really be applicable. So I'm going to unclick those that I know aren't going to be useful, right? I don't need that. Probably not going to be regional business news, because what I'm going to search for doesn't have anything to do with that. I'm going to unclick that. I'm not going to need that one. Okay, the rest of these might bring me back things. So we'll see what that does. All right, so then I'm going to hit continue. And it may be defaulted to come to the basic search. You want to go ahead and go to advanced search, because that's going to give you more advanced parameters. So let me show you how to actually fill out some of this bottom stuff down here to make sure that you're not wasting your time, right? So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to say full text, because I don't want anything that is just going to give me back a fragment or just the abstract. I want to be able to see the entire text, right? I can come down here and set if I want a periodical, newspaper, a book, right? Periodicals in EBSCO Talk are going to be journals and magazines. They say newspapers is separate. And then once you actually look at the info of the article, it might say journal as opposed to periodical. So here on the search thing, periodicals means magazines and journals. But when you get to looking at how they classify, what type of periodical, it's going to say periodic for just magazines and journals for journals. So I'll show you where that shows that. You can actually then say if you want, specific things. So I would say just go ahead and click article. You can determine the number of pages, but I wouldn't set that at this point, because that might kick out some really great sources. If you have to find like a picture or a graph, you can actually click here to say that you're looking for that. References available means that you'll be able to see the resources that the article authors used to compile that data. You can set the date that you want it to go back to. So if you're doing something that is tech related, you probably don't want to go anything later than 10 years ago. So you can actually set when how old the article needs to be, and you can even set, if you don't want anything from this year but you want something from that is no later than last year, you can put the end date, right? Or you can just leave that blank. You can also say PDF full text. MLA prefers PDF to just an HTML, but at this point you don't want to limit that. You will get both PDF and HTML, and so if it comes in both types, you'll see a link to both, so you'll always want to use PDF if you have the choice. Go ahead and set English so you don't get anything back in a language that you can't read. These things down here, again, notice that this is for Eric. So this is for Academic Search Premier. So if I'm searching more than one database at one time, I have to go in and I have to set these things for each one of those databases, right? And that's why I think it's just kind of not useful to search more than one at one time. But again, all I can do is just come back and I can set those things here if I want, but I'm just going to leave them as is. Right now I can put in my search parameters, and my research topic is going to be, how do tornadoes, does climate change cause more tornadoes? So I'm just going to put in those keywords and I'm going to hit search. All right, and so now I'm going to see that I got back over 1,400 articles. That's a whole lot of articles, right? And so maybe I want to do some more refinement. If I click peer reviewed, then that means I'm only going to find things that are considered completely credible, that they are only published after a panel of experts signs off on the quality of the article. And so notice that kicked out like 1,000 possibilities, right? If I only want PDF, right, then I can actually say only PDF, and that's going to maybe kick out some more, right? Down here, if I just want academic journals, well, I got 425. That's only going to kick out one because it looks like all of these are academic journals except for one. So that doesn't help me any, right? If I just want to look here, let's say I know that Medline isn't, going to actually give me anything that I need for tornadoes. So I can just do Academic Search Premier. Now I'm down to 337. Okay. So that's a decent number to look for, right? And so now I have to then come back and just start looking at the journals. And you'll notice right here, this says academic journal. That's where you can tell if the periodical is an academic journal, which means it's peer reviewed, or if it is just a magazine, which might not be peer reviewed. So if I take peer reviewed off again, you're going to see that here it says periodical. That means it's a magazine, not a journal. But it doesn't mean that that magazine isn't a quality. I mean, Discover is a quality publication, right? So again, if I'm kicking out peer review, I might be missing things that are helpful. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I am going to limit from 2012 to 2022. All right, and that took me down to 364, and that's probably a much better limiter than just saying only academic peer-reviewed journals. And so now I can start looking at what I've got here, right? And so I'm going to see all of the bibliographical information for this. I see my authors, I see the source. If I click the source title, I'm going to be taken to the page about that. And under publication type, it's going to tell me that it's an academic journal or a magazine or a newspaper, right? So if I have any concerns about the quality of it, I can check there. And then I'm also, if it's available, I'm going to be able to see the publisher's URL. So I can also check the credibility of that publication magazine if I'm not sure of it just from the name. The American Meteorological Society is going to be a reputable publication, right? I can also see all the dates of articles that I could get from this. So I'm going to go back to the actual article. You're going to see here's the actual PDF of the article itself. And again, the reason that MLA likes PDFs is that you actually see it as it really appeared in the publication. HTML will just give you plain text, right? So this actually allows you to see the color charts. It allows you to see the actual page numbers, et cetera, right? And so one of the things that you can do is if you create a sign in for yourself, and it's free, right? I mean, you get this with part of your subscription, right? So I've already created, an account for myself. I can actually create a folder and I can save my articles for this in my folder. So if I need a new folder, and I'm going to say tornadoes and climate change, because that's the research project I'm working on, right? When I go back to my article, I can actually save it in a specific folder. Ah, they've changed the icons on me. Let me see. I think it's this one. So that's going to mean that when I go in there, I can look at my climate change folder. Ah, well, for some reason it's not working. But again, you can save stuff into the folder so that you don't have to worry about, printing everything out. You can just come back and look at it, right? I can also look at how to cite it. It's going to have MLA ninth edition. And so I can copy this or I can export it, right? And if you've got any of these sources, you can use that. I can download it as a CSV. And when I do that, it's just going to open it up in Excel. It's not going to put it together in the bibliographic format, but it's going to actually show me all that information so that I could do it, manually. Or I can export it to like EasyBib. And then it's going to create it for me. And then I can keep adding those. And then I can hit export and tell it to go to Microsoft Word. And then it's going to open it up for me. Now, the only thing I have to do now is to double check that it's actually not done anything incorrectly, right? And so we know that this is a journal because it said it was. So we know that we don't list day and month for journals. So I need to delete August. I do have a DOI number, so I don't need the access date. I'm sorry, I don't need the access date because I have this information, so I need to delete that. I don't need to use HTTPS, so I'm going to delete that. And then I don't need EBSCO I only need the name of the database, so I can also delete that, right? And then that's going to leave me with this. Now, I would also need to change the font if that's not the font that I'm using for my paper. For an annotated bib, then all I have to do at this point is just start my annotation right here, right? And then, of course, I would want to actually write my topic. And then I would want to add my header properly over here. And then I would want to make sure that everything is spaced correctly. Okay, so again, you can see how exporting it like that can save you time. Now, if you save things to your folder, when you go to your folder, you can actually click everything and then you can actually export it. And sometimes this doesn't like to work when you try to export the whole thing. So let's see if it actually works now. Okay, that actually worked now. It used to not work. So now I've got everything that's on there and then I can export it. Again, tell it which format I want to go to. And then all I would have to do is just, again, fix those things that, you always have to like delete the stuff and then just add my annotations and add the proper title and all of that. right? So again, learning how to use these research tools can actually save you a lot of time, and allow you to maintain, this folder of information that that you can just keep adding to. You don't have to print everything out or make any decision. It might be that you're just looking for possibilities and you're just going to save them into your folder and then come back and maybe look at them more detailed later. Right. Now you can also, if you saw that up there, it said download PDF. You can also save these to your computer. So I can actually download that and put it onto my computer itself, right? Now, again, it's not necessarily going to tell, so the title, so you might have to rename it, right? So just say Analyzing Tornadic, let that be it, right? So again, you have several options, but again, as long as it meets that academic criteria, right? If it's an academic journal, then you know that it's going to pass the test. The only thing in terms of analyzing it for credibility is it might be, the date, right? It might not be, if it was published in 2012, then there might be new information that's been out since then. And so that would probably be a problem. But for analyzing it or in terms of evaluating whether it's good, it's going to be a lot easier if you've gotten an academic journal. If you just go to EBSCO, Google, then you're going to have to do a lot more work to determine if it's credible. If you don't filter out peer to just have peer reviewed, then you are going to have to again look and make sure that it is a credible magazine, a credible newspaper for academic research, right? Sometimes you get these magazines and they're not necessarily very scientific. They're mainly just, popular things. And so they don't necessarily have the same kind of expert criteria. And so again, you would have to then justify using something like this instead of a source that does come from a scientific or an expert organization, right? And if you're not sure, you can always shoot it to me and ask me what I think about it, and I'd be happy to let you know if it's going to be okay. Now, this is an example right here of an HTML text only, and so you can see it just gives you this little bit, right? And in fact, it doesn't look like it's actually got much at all to it. So I don't know that that would even be sufficient to cite in a paper. But you can see that, there's just not much here. And all you get is the text. You don't get actually any of the charts or graphs or images. And so it's just not as good as citing from a PDF. Okay. I hope that's helpful. I'll be doing another video about searching Google and some of the tips and tricks on doing that.